In this podcast, we're going to take a look at Lazarus's cognitive-mediational theory. So one thing to keep in mind is that, I'm going to just cross this one out. These two, we have Lazarus down here, they are both similar in the sense that they, again, are trying to both say that cognition plays an essential role in our experience of emotion. And as we talked about in class, one way to distinguish Schachter and Singer from Lazarus is where cognition comes into play. Basically, in the cognitive-mediational model, you can see the cognition happens sooner. It actually is the first thing. A mediator is someone that gets between two parties. So say we have party A and party B, right, who are, say, negotiating a contract. A mediator gets in the middle, right, of these two to try to assist. So we can see we have the stimulus here, and then we have the emotion here, and the cognition is in the middle. In Schachter and Singer, you can see the cognition and the arousal are happening here, right? Some will have the arousal happen first, and then the cognitive appraisal of the arousal and of the context, right? So you can see that this is basically moving cognition up in the process. So basically, Lazarus is trying to say that when we come across a stimulus, and this is another example I used in class, say we hear, even if we are startled by a dog, right? We hear a dog barking. What we do is okay, we turn to the direction it's coming from. And now that we notice that the dog is behind a fence, even if it's baring its teeth as it is in this picture, we appraise it. We might find it annoying, but we're probably not going to become fearful, or the intensity of our fear is going to be quite diminished if compared to a scenario where this fence was taken away and we had a dog that could easily come to us. Our appraisal of the dog would be very, very different, right? If there was no fence there, right? And therefore the emotion, the resulting emotion, is directly connected to our appraisal of the situation. Okay, so let's take a look at how he basically came across this. So in essence, the appraisal, right, gives rise to the emotion. That's what he's trying to say, right? The appraisal, we have the subjective feeling. It could be fear, it could be happiness. We've been basically talking about fear, but it can be disgust, okay? And he thinks the bodily responses, not just a physical arousal, so to speak, follow here. You can put bodily response here. Okay, let's take a look at a very cool experiment he did to find support for his theory. Okay, so he had subjects watch stressful films. What were the stressful films are about? Most of the stressful films were documentaries highlighting skin or body piercing rituals among non-industrial people. So like Australian Aborigines, African Pygmies, different non-industrial, non-Western tribes who engage in body piercing rituals, right? So basically, he had two groups watch, and I actually have a video of one if you have the stomach to watch one, where a young man's torso is pierced, and it can be quite bloody. So if you want to watch one to get a sense of what Lazarus showed his subjects, you can get a sense. It's not the specific one, but it's similar. Okay, so he had them watch these films, and what he was doing was measuring their ANS response. However, here's the catch. Some people, let's call them the green group, were told that the people in the film that they're about to be watching have their bodies pierced with different knives and other things. They weren't hurt, and nor did they experience much emotional and mental distress from the rituals. Another group of people, right, this red group, those people were told that the people in the film whose bodies were getting pierced most often and very likely suffered from severe pain and sometimes even infection from these body rituals. So he wanted to see how that would affect their emotion, right? And he wanted to see how it would measure their ANS response. He's basically trying to say this information is going to serve as some type of appraisal mechanism. It's going to help them make sense of what they watch, right? So basically they're going to watch this film, but they're going to keep in mind how they're going to interpret what they watch is based upon this. So cognitive appraisal can often be informed by our memories, by the stimulus itself. So what do you think happened? What do you think the difference was in the ANS response of these two groups? So I actually tried to answer this. Remember, you can pause me. All right, this is what he found. I'm actually going to read you the example from one of the books. By influencing the way the participants construed what was happening in the films, by giving them this information, Lazarus found that they could greatly change the participants' physiological activity and subjective emotional reactions. That is, appraisal serves as a cognitive mediator between environmental stimuli, the film, and people's reaction to those stimuli, right? So they watched the film and he wanted to see how they reacted and then what type of emotion they experienced in a self-reporting manner. And the emotions differed between these two groups. Lazarus believed it was due to how they utilized this information, and he considers that evidence for the cognitive appraisal theory of emotion.